Happy Mando Eve! I can't believe I'm saying that, but Mandalorian debuts tomorrow on Disney Plus, and trust me, I know if you're one of our UK listeners, we sympathize, but don't worry, not talking any spoilers here, but we are opening the base because it's time for the Resistance broadcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm John. How are you? Joining me as always, James and Lacey. Guys, are you excited that it's Mando Eve? Is it like more exciting than like Christmas Eve?
I see how you connected the words Eve there.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I excited that it's Mando Eve?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. I wonder how Thursday's show's going to go, though, because we will have seen it.
Yeah. We shouldn't talk about it, I think. Right?
Probably not talk about it, though. Yeah.
No
Lacey, spoilers anyway.
Lacey, what's the deal? Mando Eve? You excited for the Mando fan show? First episode of ours coming up.
I'm more excited that you're wearing your Rebels hat, John.
You're excited about my Rebels hat?
It's like there's a celebrity guest on our podcast right now. Also, you didn't get the memo of wearing the round logo t-shirt. I
do what I want.
He did get the memo of having the words on the shirt, though.
I got the words on the shirt.
All have the words
James
on the shirt.
never wears our merch. Like, it's either his custom Solo a Star Wars Story sweatshirt that everyone always asks where they can get it, and then we have to explain that they can't get it. Or
yeah,
he's
such a big hassle.
Or he wears something from like Old Navy.
I was gonna say Old Navy.
Yeah, there you go.
Great. Thanks, guys.
But for you audio listeners who don't care about what we're wearing, hi, everybody. All right, so guys, I just want to talk briefly about Mando. I'm excited about it. One thing that has been a hot topic is whether or not we're going to see Pedro Pascal's face in this show at all in season 1. So we threw up a quick poll. And did you guys check the results on this? Do you know how they voted?
No.
No, but I would say yes.
You would say yes? How much do you think? If I told you...
percentage-wise?
Yeah. How many? What percentage of people do you think said yes?
70% yes.
Lacey?
I don't know. No.
You think they said no?
Yeah.
All right, so James, you're pretty much correct there, pal, except if it was The Price is Right. 69% of the people said yes.
Oh, come on!
Boom, 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 boom. You can spin the wheel later, though. It's okay. Yeah. 31% said no. I think he will take the mask off in season 1. What do you guys think so?
No.
No?
I'm going to say 70% yes. I'm just kidding. Same thing we just did. No, I think we talked about this last week or something, but yeah, it just kind of makes sense with the connection to the character. But I just have this thing in the back of my head that like the thing that made Boba Fett cool was the fact that he didn't have his helmet off, you know, and I feel like if anybody's going to pull that, it's going to be John, because that he's trying to bring back what he liked about Star Wars when he watched The Empire Strikes Back. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe imagine like episode 1 tomorrow. He just like first scene. He's like, oh man, what a day.
Yeah, yeah, like Han immediately and Kira kissing.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. How like, you're like, there's no way that they're kissing, and then they make out in the first like legit 30 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, Han and Kira were straight out of Titanic, like just like full on teenage romance. Yeah. They got
it
that
like starts with somebody addressing him as Pedro. He's like,
yeah, he's just like, man, I had a day. Yeah,
yeah.
No, I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about the Mando fan show. We are starting that immediately after the show tomorrow. We're going to record it. I don't know if we're going to get it out tomorrow night or Wednesday morning, but we'll get it out as soon as we can. We're going to have some cool formats. We're going to rate each episode using Pedro faces, 0 to 10. How many Pedro faces, including halves, that we rate each episode? So say it was 8.5. I rate this one 8.5 Pedro Pascal faces. So whether or not he takes his helmet off, we'll show it to you on the Mando fan show. And then we're going to talk about the episode and, of course, get into fun stuff like Easter eggs, references that we spotted, and then look ahead to what we speculate on what we think the next episode is going to be and happen. And then we're going to be having guests, and we'll get into that all later. But one thing I did want to do quickly, guys, with you, we relaunched our Patreon this past Thursday, and the response we got from that, just so many new people joining us over there. So I just wanted to say thank you from me personally to everybody who has signed up for the Patreon, including our existing patrons who've been with us for the full year or even just recently. We hope you're enjoying all the new content, including the Discord server, new videos, and all the stuff we have coming down the line. And of course, early access to all of our videos, like this episode and stuff like that. So thank you guys so much. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, it's overwhelming, the support that we got on Thursday and we continue to get from everybody. I couldn't imagine what we experience now a year ago. We kind of launched it being like, oh, maybe we'll have a couple people sign up, we'll chat with them, we'll have a good time. But like the way it is now is like unreal. So that being said, just a little behind the scenes, we spent weeks, months planning for all this stuff and doing images and videos and copy and everything. So it's really nice to see that people are reacting to it so well, because a lot of work and man hours went into this. So yeah, and woman hours, sorry, man and woman hours.
For me personally, like when it comes to people like, you know, paying like a subscription to something, you know, I always like think of like the $10 subscription or something. And I'm always like, man, that's another thing they're adding onto their monthly bill. And it's so crazy to think that people are supporting what we're doing. What else is crazy about that is not even so much, it is, but not even so much the new people that came in today. They were coming from recommendations of current patrons. Like there were people today, or not today, but like when we were launching
Thursday,
yeah, that they were like, hey, I've been a patron of this podcast for a long time and it's totally worth it. And I'm like, that means so much. Like we often think, you know, like, is it payoff for the people who are helping us grow? Like, what do they get out of it? And it's nice to know that it feels like that, you know, that they're getting their money's worth and stuff. So it's like, that's so cool. Like, and we just also recorded like 2 hours worth of content, and that's like a week practically of extra stuff, you know? So nuts.
And it's funny, like you said, James, people did that and they were like, here's why you should be a patron. And they would bring up things that I forgot we do. They'd be like, and they do these Q&A videos. I'm like, oh yeah, we do those. I didn't even mention that in our tweet selling the thing. So thank you all for that. And shout out to these guys. Lacey runs the page for us and facilitates it. And without what Lacey does, it would be just your random standard, here's a Patreon page. So thanks to Lacey and James, all the visuals you see, including us sliding into frame and all the new banners and the colors and the tiers and all that stuff was all done by James. So thanks to you two. I mean, this is a premier Patreon page because of your efforts, without a doubt. So
John writes all the copy.
Yeah, it feels weird to not mention how you do all this stuff, but yeah, you write everything and like come up with so many good ideas and show
all
like
the polls,
things that we can do for the Patreon and stuff. So in a lot of ways, you're kind of like the creator, the original brainchild of what we then work on to finish the process. So
we're the executors. You're the
idea guy.
Idea guy.
Hey guys, can we do this? And James like, well, it'll take 12 hours. I'm like, all right.
John is always doing that. He's like, so are we doing the new show format? And I'm like, we haven't even thought it through. What are you talking about?
So I'm going to announce this right now. He's like, I'm going to just announce this new show idea. And we're all like, no.
Yeah. How about that Ognolte t-shirt? Like, all right, maybe. All right, guys.
It's Ognolt.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, team effort anyway, and thanks to everyone for acknowledging and appreciating it, and we hope you have fun and enjoy it, and we're just getting started. It's going to be a heck of a year, and leading all the way up to awesome events like Celebration and stuff like that, which we'll get into more details on what we're doing for that. But now it's time to get into the meat of the show, and that is kicked off by the Resistance Report. There's a lot of Star Wars news. We even had to leave some stuff out, so we tried to get into some stuff we think you guys would like, including stuff that we think we all should know heading into The Mandalorian. So James, take it away with this week's Resistance Report.
It's the resistance.
Well, long story short, yeah, we're talking Mandalorian. It comes out tomorrow. So there's probably, information out there that we're not even talking about right now. But we kind of have 3 little mini stories that all have to do with the Mandalorian, and then we can get into some of the other news that happened. But the first one is that we got new footage and details of the new character FENNEC Shand. It's an assassin played by Ming-Na Wen, who's famous for Mulan and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show, Marvel property. This was all courtesy of Vanity Fair. We're going to break it down a little bit, but the main majority of the article is that this character is a loner. She's only out for herself. And the other thing is, like, to describe the character itself, the name came later. The name was kind of inspired by the idea of a fennec fox. So, Lacey, I'm going to start with you on this one. Are you interested in this character at all?
Yeah, I mean, all the things you said are what make the character interesting, that she's a loner and she is tough. I'm interested to see how it differs from, her Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character, May, because Agent May is kind of like
It'll
this
be good.
loner, like, tough girl, like, snarky. Like, so I'm thinking in my head, when they announced this character and described what she'd be like, I'd be like, so Agent May with a braid? So I'm interested to see what it is. Ming-Na Wen's great. I think she's great at, like, fight scenes and stuff. So I think it's going to be really cool. And every time they announce, like, a female character in the show, it's someone that's kicking butt, which I love. It's none of these, like, aristocratic, I'm wearing fancy costumes. It's like girls that are, like, down in the dirt, like, fighting the other guys and, like, sticking up for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited.
John, do you consider this character to be a loner, like someone who's out for themselves?
Like Pee-wee Herman in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yeah.
I'm a loner, Daddy.
I'm a loner, Daddy.
A rebel.
A rebel, that's right.
That works. I think it's interesting how they made a comparison to Han Solo. Obviously a post-soloist Star Wars story Solo, like a jaded, like, I've been burned so many times, I'm out for myself and the money, and that the Han Solo we met in A New Hope. The only difference being she's an assassin who works for crime syndicates. So I liked the aspect of the quote where she's saying your name will be legendary. We're assuming she's saying that to the Mandalorian, right? And then oh, she's not saying that to him. Okay.
I am not assuming that. I'm assuming.
I'm not either, but
I'll get into that in a second.
I guess I phrased that wrong. They're making us think she's saying that to him.
There you go.
The trailer. Okay. And then what I was surprised that they did was they revealed just straight out, like, he's going to meet her halfway through the season. So, like, we can put her away and be like, okay, she's coming at some point down the line. But that also kind of made me realize we're about to watch a Star Wars TV show. Like, like episode 5, like, we're going to see this new character, and this is going to be this mini storyline in this overall arc. And I'm realizing we're getting a different type of Star Wars storytelling that we sort of saw with, like, the Clone Wars and that sort of thing. But it's live action, and it's just way more involved to make that sort of thing happen. So I don't know. All of this makes me excited. And then what other people made connections about. I think maybe Mark, one of our patrons, had made the first connection. I'm not sure. I know it's like cult of culture, and I'm sorry if I didn't give credit to somebody who said this first. But the whole last name thing, Shand being the same last name as one of the members of Kanja Club, that could be a connection. Again, another crime syndicate group. That's interesting to me. So a lot of these moving parts around this character intrigue me. I don't know much about her because, I wasn't, into Mulan, and I'm not an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan. So I don't know what else she may have been in that I could have caught. But I know Jon Favreau knows to bring in the right level of talent. So I'm excited to get to know her. And just overall, again, this excites me about this type of storytelling for Star Wars, and maybe I'll get to see an assassin snipe some people, and that's cool Star Wars stuff to me too. So I'm all in.
About that, do I think that she's talking to the Mandalorian thing? I think I said this on a Patreon video, but like, I think that's her introduction, and she's being shown like, with like some alien or something. And she's like, yeah, if we go rob this bank, you're going to be famous. You know what I mean? Like your name's going to be known all over the whole galaxy. Then they show him like actually doing it. And she like, you know, cuts a rope or something and like something falls on him. And she's like, yeah, took care of that. Kind of Joker-esque, I guess, Dark Knight kind of Joker.
Right.
Convinced all these guys that that there would be something in it for them. And then in the last minute, just kind of like cut all the loose ends. And she seems like a character that could come into the series like that. And then maybe, I don't know, Mandalorian shows up and like stops her. And then we're like, oh, they're equal or something, you know?
Yeah.
But did you guys see that trailer with the snake though?
I've lost, there's like 12 TV spots now, so I'm losing. Oh, you mean the big monster he shoots the fire at?
No,
there's like a big water snake monster that attacks the ship.
Yeah,
Lady
think
Proxima?
like Chamber of Secrets, like snake monster, giant snake, and it like is like attacking the ship.
I gotta catch up on my TV spots.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm watching the show tomorrow, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the music? So we got an interview coming from the LA Times. They interviewed Ludwig Göransson about the score and how he's blending innovation with the traditional to try to do his own thing in the Star Wars galaxy. Specifically, he said, and I'm quoting here, "I wanted to get back to that nostalgic childhood memory I had watching Star Wars and the excitement of seeing these kind of really amazing visuals and with music that sounds like it's coming from other planets." So John, what do you think about the score here being done by Ludwig Göransson?
I was a little cautious about it because I'm so used to Star Wars having the roots really tied closely to classical music with John Williams and traditional classical music. But then I read this interview and I wrote this report up, and it made me more excited about the series than anything I had seen to this point, because you realize how important Star Wars music is to its success. George Lucas always called it the lifeblood of Star Wars, and he didn't think Star Wars was going to be good until he saw it with the music. And Jon Favreau talking about it, saying like he met him through Ryan Coogler, and his taking a risk by saying like, let's not, rely on the same old, let's make it sound like a John Williams, but also keep one foot in that sandbox so that you get those types of beats, but it sounds different, so that the Mandalorian develops its own identity. And I think that's very important, so that when you hear music and say you're in a Star Wars setting, if you're at a Star Wars bar or in a Star Wars convention and you hear a track from the Mandalorian, you're like, that's the Mandalorian music. Like, I like that aspect of it, that it's not going to be like, oh, what is that? Like, because you don't want the Mandalorian just to be some stock Star Wars sounding music like that. And I think Jon Favreau understood that. So I'm really excited the fact that this guy, he's accomplished. He's already won an Oscar and a Grammy, and now he's coming to Star Wars and taking some chances and making it its own, while respecting the old school. I think it's a perfect marriage.
Lacey, what do you think?
John said a lot of it. I think that he's a great choice. I think he killed it with Black Panther. I think he's one of the reasons Black Panther was so successful, because the music was just so good. I like the idea that he said that John Williams was like basically the best thing that anybody that's doing cinematic scores could want to emulate, because he is like the guy, which is so true. He's done like every famous movie theme outside of Star Wars. I really loved how he talked about how he was trying to do that, but adding in like a tech sound and like a gritty sound to it. Because we talked about this a little bit in like our Patreon exclusive videos about how sometimes Star Wars gets people confuse it with sci-fi, but I think that this is a good example of like a little sci-fi doesn't hurt because it's more of a Western. So then it ties back in more of that space adventure, which can get lost in these kind of backworld, rough and tumble type of shows or movies where you forget that they're in space. or they're on another planet because everything you see looks like Earth, kind of. So that's really exciting. And the idea that Jon Favreau found him through Ryan Coogler is really cool because it's just interesting to hear how people know certain people and how they suggest certain people to work on different projects. And I mean, he just, again, he killed it at Black Panther. So I'm sure he'll do an amazing job with this too.
Yeah, there's not like a whole lot to add to this, especially since the only thing we've really seen is the trailer stuff, you know, which I don't know if he's necessarily putting his best foot forward on that or not, you know. I have thought that a lot of the stuff coming out of it, there is like a key Mandalorian theme, but for the most part, it seems very sound effect, like Foley and
right,
you know, kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know, there's a possibility that they're kind of doing like the Marvel route, which, you know, if you expand on the music of Marvel, they tend to not put the themes as big of a focus. They kind of fill in the background music with like exactly that, like background music. They don't treat it like is important. And oftentimes that means that the music in Marvel movies gets forgotten. Like you can't really name like Ant-Man's theme or something like that, right? So I'm kind of curious if they're trying to kick that up just a little bit with this one. But I think we scrutinize Star Wars so much, we're all going to be like, yeah, like I think most people probably couldn't sing you Rose's theme, but like we know it, you know. So there's that. Last thing that we have to talk about with the Mandalorian is this interview with MTV News about how the Mandalorian is kind of going to bring back a format that George Lucas had always hoped for, which was like this episodic serialized storytelling. I actually did not know this. So reading this whole thing was like interesting to me. But the main point for me was a Dave Filoni quote where he said, even when I worked with him on Clone Wars, he would talk about the future being streaming, the future of it would be episodic serialized Star Wars. And I was like, man, that is crazy. That's one of those like Steve Jobs was talking about blank back on, you know, in this day or something. And it's like, man, that's so crazy to me. Lacey, I want you to talk about this as far as, I don't know, all this stuff about the Mandalorian being like kind of the idea that George Lucas wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of like Flash Gordon type stuff, right? That's what George Lucas wanted to do to begin with. But yeah, I thought this article was cool. There's a lot of interesting information about the way that Favreau works and then Filoni works. And but the interesting thing to me was when Favreau talked about Easter eggs, about how excited he was to throw in like little things here and there. I often miss them, honestly. I
love them.
I get some of them, but I would not put me up as like the champion of Easter eggs. But the idea that someone is like so into that kind of thing and into throwing references into their shows is really exciting because it means that every time you rewatch it, you're going to find something new. And Favreau's such a big fan. And anytime he brings up like the holiday special, he just loves it and you could tell. So I just know that there's no way that this show is going to be bad. And I know that's a big thing to say because I know, but because he cares so much, I really think that plays into it. And you could tell every time he talks about it, every time he, does an interview, and just seeing the photos and videos of him on set. And I always go back to this because it's just such an obvious thing. At Celebration, when he talked about how they did hand models again for all the ships. Like, they didn't have to do that. They chose to do that because they liked it. They wanted to do it. And the way that he made it sound, where he was at Lucasfilm and a guy that used to do ships was like, hey, man, I heard you're doing ships again. And they're like, yeah, maybe you want to help us? And he's like, yeah. And they would just, in their free time, like in a garage somewhere, make model ships. So like, to me, that's the fun stuff that I like to hear.
I picture like from the other room, like the guy like leaning in.
Yeah. I heard you're making ships again.
Yeah. What are you guys doing over there?
Yeah.
You guys making ships?
Yeah. And then the story he told at Celebration was like day by day, like one more person would show up and be like, hey man, I heard you're making ships. And then you have a crew of 15 people that are like, hey man, I heard you need lights. And he like showed up with a light. That's the stuff that I love to hear about. And I think that's what, George Lucas built the original Star Wars around, is the collaboration of all these people that were working towards a goal, that were being creative, that just wanted to have fun and do cool things. And I think that's what the culture that Favreau has kind of made. And that's why I think this show's going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I saw something recently that was like, if you rewatch the prequels in black and white, they play out like old serialized, like, what do they call those? Not Flash Gordon, but like, you know what I mean? Like wartime films or whatever.
Like radio drama type stuff?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it takes you back to a time when it's like spaceships and aliens and
Buck Rogers.
Yeah, exactly. Buck Rogers maybe is kind of like exactly what I'm thinking. But yeah, they said like it would be like that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that was kind of what inspired it in the first place. But I think that, again, like the biggest takeaway for me is like, I still can't wrap my head around, and I still don't think people like totally get it. Like, there's going to be so much live action Star Wars content because of this show. Like that, like the first 2 episodes is the same amount of content as The Rise of Skywalker. We're all super excited for The Rise of Skywalker because it's 2 hours of live action Star Wars content. And it's like The Mandalorian's like, hold my beer, which I'm glad I said it on the show because John has that blocked on Twitter.
Oh yeah, I do. That's true. That's muted. Yeah. The long list of muted phrases.
That is the biggest thing to me. And I think having George work on the Clone Wars for so long and seeing that show kind of turn into something that was like, people are like, what? I don't know about this. And then coming to love it like over time and being like, man, there's so much good stuff in there. It starts to make you think like the lore of Star Wars is about to get like super deep, because there's going to be so much stuff that people can pull from after the show. Yeah. John, last thoughts on this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway is the collaborative element. I mean, you guys talked about the Lucas ties and stuff like that. And, it's hard for me to think that anyone who is a George Lucas apologist who doesn't like current Star Wars, if they have a problem with this, it's like, you probably wouldn't, then you're just saying it, because then this is what George Lucas would probably be doing. It's his boy Dave Filoni. Like, it's as close to George Lucas as you're going to get. That aside, the element of Favreau being a live action pro, first Star Wars production, flip that. Dave Filoni, Star Wars pro, first live action. You put those together, perfect mesh for creators for a Star Wars live action production. Obviously, Favreau's the big dog here, but I like seeing Dave learning the ropes for the live action stuff and bringing his lore element in. But don't sell Favreau short, because he's making it clear he wants all the nerds out there to know how big of a Star Wars fan he is. And that's what takes me to my big takeaway, the line, never lose touch with people who've put in time and who cared about these types of things. And he said they could have went for general audience for Iron Man, but they really wanted to hammer home the true beats, and it worked. So
is that a pun?
Yeah, I guess. I didn't even realize it, to be honest with you. But yeah. Right. Hammer home, yeah. But appeasing diehards worked with Iron Man, so diehards of Mandalorian culture and Star Wars in general are probably going to be fed well with this. And Favreau is confident he knows how to make it work to also bring in the general audience. So instead of working outward in, he's working in out. And that level of confidence that he has in doing that makes me more confident in the show. Not that I needed it. So all things are pointing in the right direction for utter disappointment tomorrow when we watch episode 1 of... No, I'm just
shattered. Everything gone.
Right. No, I'm so excited to do that. And then obviously talk about it on the Mando fan show. But one last thing I want to clarify. I guess we're just going to talk this out here now. We have to, figure out how spoilery we want to get on the podcast itself, because obviously there's a part of our audience who won't be able to watch this yet. So for those of you listening out there, we'll try to figure that out. But obviously the Mando fan show is going to be a big part of where we do a lot of spoilery talk for the show, I bet.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I have a good idea of how we could do it because I do the book discussions as well. And we try to toe the line of like review first, score first, then get into like what happened and spoilery stuff.
And we can put up the alarms if we want to. Yeah, and all that stuff. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Well, gosh, we're all excited for The Mandalorian. It's coming out tomorrow night, or tomorrow. We don't even know really specifics like that.
True.
But yeah, I think that's all the talk that we got for Mandalorian stuff. There are a couple other things that we wanted to do, but we're not going to go to the Scoundrels Rundown. We're going to actually talk about it on Resistance Report. Anthony Daniels was doing interviews for his book IMC3PO, and in the rounds, he has made a couple comments that are kind of pointing to a little bit of like the Rise of Skywalker, like plot points to a degree. Lacey, I'm going to start with you on this one, but did you see any of this stuff about like, his last lines on set, how he hoped that C-3PO would die and JJ said no, but remember, JJ changes his mind all the time. So it's like, what is he trying to tell us,
I don't think they're going to kill C-3PO. We've talked about this. He's an evergreen character. You could probably get someone else in the suit and replicate the voice or have Anthony Daniels record a bunch of stuff and just have it in a library. The interesting thing to me was when he said that he recorded the scene, which would be the last line he said as C-3PO, but it wasn't the last scene he shot. Like they shot it out of order, which I feel like we've talked about on the show before that JJ usually shoots in order. So it's interesting that he's been shooting out of order. And I think that's a tricky thing that he's doing. Because he said like,
could also be reshoots or pickup shots.
It could be. I don't know. He said he knew when he was saying his last line, but it wasn't the last thing he shot. But what stuck out to me more was him talking about going to dinner with everybody and they're like ready to find out about the story. And then Chris Terrio wasn't there because he was sick. So then they were like, oh, well, we're just having dinner. And he was like, oh, well, but like, am I in this movie or like he said he left the dinner like unsure. How he felt, but yeah,
he's so awkward. He's got to be awkward.
He never shies from being like he's very outspoken. He always has been that way, and he rubbed Kenny Baker the wrong way because of it. So he's one person who never minced words. He's always been that way. So that's why when people are shocked and mad that he was like saying certain things, I'm like, it's Anthony Daniels, like.
But at the first, can we take a step back for a second? People were getting mad online that he said that like he was hoping he would have a bigger role in this movie. And then also, Maerk had felt that he was hoping he would have a bigger role. And people took this as like them being against new characters. I know this isn't what we're talking about, but I need to say it. Just because they said that doesn't mean they hate the new characters. It just means that they really want to be in the movie more because this is their whole legacy. That's all that means. And I feel like people took it and ran with it. And it's like Mark Hamill being like, I love playing Luke Skywalker. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'd love to have a bigger role as Luke Skywalker. It doesn't mean he hates anyone else.
So, some people who have a big name in this fandom took some real hard shots at these actors, and I was like shocked by that. I was like, wow.
These poor people have been living this life, this character in their head and who they are. Like, it is who they are for 42 years. Give them a break when they said, hey, I wish I could have got more lines. Because if I was in a Star Wars movie and it was later on down the road, yeah, of course you want to see the new characters and everybody have their equal part, but you still want a couple more lines. Like, that's not a weird concept.
and newsflash, Anthony Daniels was C-3PO, like, just as like the Vietnam War was ending. He doesn't care if you don't like what he had to say in one interview for one quote because you've had a blog for 2 years. Like, I
just think people ran with it, and I think that's not what they meant whatsoever. It's like someone gives you a gift and you're like, oh, this gift's okay, and they're like, you hate it, you hate the gift. No, that's not what I said. What I said is like, it's okay, but I rather would have had this gift.
Or it's, I love the gift, I love everything about the gift, I just didn't like the bow that you put on the wrapping that you gave me. But you're going to focus on the bow part, I said, not that I loved the toaster oven you got me. Yeah.
The toaster oven.
I love toaster ovens. They're great. Yeah.
That's what another name for C-3PO, just the golden toaster oven.
You're right, exactly.
The brave little toaster. I digress. Go ahead, John.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I'll just say it. A lot of these interviews, he said mostly good stuff. But one thing that I loved him saying was he thinks C-3PO is not going anywhere. He even emphatically said, just because we're ending the Skywalkers doesn't mean C-3PO has to end, and I'd be sad if that was the case. So I don't think that's going to happen. So he thinks we're going to see plenty more C-3PO in the future, and he even said, like, they can go on without me. I'd rather the character go on than just be ended, is what he kind of said, which I found interesting because he owns C-3PO in his, he is C-3. It's the title of his book. I am C-3PO.
Yeah, right? I was going to say, are we going to mention that?
Right.
That we keep saying, he is the character.
Yeah, right.
That's literally what he named his book.
But he wanted to call it Telling the Odds, apparently, which erupted the crowd at Celebration. But the fact that he who has a little bit of an ego because this is his identity, he's just known as C-3PO. When it's not Star Wars time, he's Tony Daniels going to the grocery store and no one knows who he is. But when it comes to this time, he's a superstar again. And the fact that he was still able to say, like, I don't mind passing this on is way more of a humbling and generous thing than him saying, I wish I had I wish I had a bigger role. Like, I think that's a more wonderful thing for him to have said. Like, I hope C-3PO goes on. I think that's a really touching thing. So that's my biggest takeaway from this. And it gives me hope that they will continue the stories like we've been saying with Rey, Finn, Poe, and bring back the evergreen legacy characters like your R2, Chewie, and 3PO and the Falcon and that sort of thing. So I love that. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I actually missed that portion of one of the interviews that he did where he said like he wouldn't mind it being carried over to another person, because that was when Lacey was saying, of course they're going to continue to use him. I was like, they're going to continue to use him without him. He's one of the legacy characters. How do you have episode 10, 11, and 12 with Poe and Rey and all them and not C-3PO? That you kind of got to explain why C-3PO is not there. Well, it's because Anthony Daniels' last movie was 9, but yeah, you're saying he'd be willing to hand it off or see it moved on to somebody else. And I'm like, okay, well then that makes sense. We're back to square one. They will be doing 10. They're not going to kill his character and all that other stuff. Can we talk about one other thing though, that he said where he was on the set and he was like, yeah, I read about a huge malevolent creature and I was pretty confident it was going to be CG, and then I got there and I was like, no, this thing is like legit, like a living thing that towered and menaced right in front of me.
Lady Proxima.
Lacey, do you like this goes back to the whole like practical versus CG, and JJ's not shying away from the practical here. He literally invented the creature.
Is it the spider baby head?
Oh,
I kind of thought about that. Yes.
Is it the pig spider head baby head?
I can't.
That would be a malevolent creature.
Imagine you walk on set and the thing that they described is what he saw. Like, that would be something that Anthony Daniels would be like, what the?
Malevolent?
Unless this is a misquote and Angelina Jolie is in the movie.
There you go. There it is. Call back. So you have to watch every episode.
Be a maleficent creature.
You have to watch every episode of TRB to get the humor. So don't miss an episode ever.
It's like Letterman.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the baby head.
It's not.
Last thing, guys, we got to wrap all this up, guys. We got a lot of news to talk about. The last thing though is about the Todd Fisher story. Where he was doing an interview and and he mentioned some things about the plans for Carrie Fisher, what was supposed to happen, and where things were going to go. John, I want to start with you specifically because he mentioned a lot of stuff about how they're reusing the footage and stuff like that. And we did some reports on that. So you go ahead, man. What do you think?
I mean, so unfortunately, a lot of sites obviously take this and they're like, this was JJ's original idea. And it's like, well, wait a minute. JJ wasn't involved before Carrie passed. This was a Colin Trevorrow idea that she was going to be a Jedi and use a lightsaber. And everyone had been saying, Harrison 7, Luke with Mark Hamill in 8, and Carrie 9. That was the whole plan. So everyone kind of gets that. So I'm just it's a little not annoying, but it's a little frustrating that this comes up now, because then people are like, wait, because then they're going to see 9 and see her for 5 minutes and be like, they had this whole plan, and then they wind up just doing this where she hugs and that's it. That's a disgrace to Leia and blah, blah, blah. So that's going to happen, unfortunately. But I think this whole aspect that they're saying they had 8 minutes of footage that they used or whatever is really starting to prove that thing that we kind of came to a conclusion on in a few episodes back here, that she's going to be in the beginning of the movie for like a few minutes, and then maybe at the end as like a Force ghost or something like that, or they'll show her like become one with the Force. Like, it's becoming clear that this whole like how they handled her is magical and it's like she's really there will be true, but she's not going to be there a lot. So anyone thinking we're going to be seeing Leia face off against Palpatine, I don't think that's happening. They probably could try to make it work, but I think they just want to respect it and not make it a circus. So they want to treat her in an elegant, respectful way, and maybe just let us say goodbye to the character in a nice sort of way like that. So there's nothing we could do about it. You could bring up what would have been, but it doesn't change anything. She passed away, and it's unfortunate, but they're lucky enough to be able to end it with Carrie and not have, recasted her or killed her off screen like we originally thought they were going to do. So, I mean, it is like, I hate the phrase, but it is what it is. And, I just don't know that bringing up Colin Trevorrow ideas is helpful at this point, because JJ and Chris Terrio wrote a completely different script. So I think all this would potentially do is just, again, create those things like, if people didn't like JJ's movie, like, should have let Trevorrow do it. He knew what we wanted. He wanted Luke to be the hero. Blah, blah, blah. And so on. So whatever.
Lacey, did you like this idea?
What idea? Her
the
fighting
idea
Palpatine?
Of what he pitched.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I don't know how it would fit into the story that's been laid out so far. And I think that, The Last Jedi, they set up that she gets hurt, and then we're reading in, Resistance Reborn that she's not doing well. I can't see Leia like taking on a lightsaber and fighting people in the last movie of the saga. If this was Force Awakens and she did that, I'd be like, yup, I get it. But like, because they put it off to the last movie, I don't know. It feels like kind of like I don't want to say cop out, because that's not the right phrase, but I feel like it's like, oh, we just put her off to the last minute when they had all these other opportunities to have her have a lightsaber. She could have done it in Return of the Jedi. Like, there are so many different times they could have done it that I don't think they need to do it now. But like John said, I think it's a weird thing to bring it up now. I think the last time we talked about Todd Fisher was when Clayton was on a while ago, over a year ago. And he was talking about how this movie's all about fan service. And now he's back again saying, oh, they would have done these wonderful things with Leia. And then her daughter did a piece on her, which was very, very lovely. But she said she spoke to her mom on the phone, and her mom was like, this is my movie. It's finally going to be my time. And it's bittersweet and sad, because nothing can come of these ideas and thoughts and phrases and sayings because she's not here. So it's kind of just like putting salt in the wound, kind of. But the thing that stuck out to me, though, is that he said that they used 8 minutes of footage of Carrie. Now, if you think about in the scope of a movie, 8 minutes is not that long. Yeah, if they play the whole thing, but like if they're trying to make a scene out of 8 minutes of footage, I don't know about that. We'll see what happens.
Well, we don't know that they started with 8 minutes or they had like 20 minutes and they used 8 of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Right. I just know that he said 8 minutes. I was like, also, 8 is not that much.
I don't want to, interject here, because I'm not, I don't want to interrupt if you're still rolling, but this came to my mind. I don't want to lose it. Via that report we had a few months back, that they're also repurposing existing shots from TFA that weren't cut. And it's possible Todd Fisher doesn't know that.
Sure.
So,
I'm just going by what he's saying in this
I know.
article.
So I think we do have to be careful what Todd Fisher is saying too. Like, I know he's Carrie's brother, but he just could be
and part of her, what do they call it? Estate. You know?
Right. He can know less about this than a casual Star Wars fan, if we're being honest. Like, he even said in this interview, I guess, like, she's supposed to be the last Jedi. I'm like, well, hold on a second now. Like,
what about
are
Rey?
we just forgetting about Rey now? So, like, why is everybody stop dismissing Rey? She's the hero. Deal with it. So I think we need to. It sounds bad me saying this. We need to take what Todd Fisher says with a pinch of cinnamon.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I found it weird he said 8 minutes.
Yeah. And you know, 8
so
minutes
specific.
8 minutes isn't as little as we think, because like when we talk about screen time as we have in the past, like Darth Vader was in A New Hope for 19 minutes.
Right.
You know?
I'm saying to work from.
Oh, I agree.
It's
completely.
a very specific amount of time. That's what stood out to me. I was like, oh,
and
8.
if he's right, then, you know, I think it does put more credence to the thought that we're going to see Leia in a big chunk at the beginning of this movie and then not too much after.
Right. James, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything you said about the taking his word, you know, with a pinch of cinnamon, but I also just heard the pitch for the movie, and I'm like, I get kind of what you're saying, like, oh, Obi-Wan fought Vader and it was like this fight, but I've also often said that I think that's the worst fight in Star Wars when it comes to lightsabers and stuff. And I love the idea, which is what they did, of Leia in her spare time learning a little bit more about the Force, right? But I think it would be like crazy if they did The Force Awakens, then The Last Jedi, and then in the last one try to convince me that she's a full-fledged Jedi.
Right.
I'm like, no.
Well,
like,
right.
Yeah.
that is not Leia's character. She is the tactical general, you know what I mean?
She made a choice.
The heart of the rebellion, you know? That's not her role. Luke Skywalker is that role, you know? And so I thought to kill off Luke and then say, I don't even worry about that. He wasn't the last Jedi. There's another one. And she like pulls off the mask and she's wearing the robe and stuff. And I'm like, what is this?
Right.
That's not her character at all. So I actually have to say, I'm glad they didn't do that. Right?
Yeah. And also, like, Carrie Fisher, she was 60 when she passed, but she wasn't in, you know, great physical shape, obviously. And they would have had to have Ian McDiarmid episode 3'd her with lightsaber scenes, and we know how that looked. It's you know, it would have been weird seeing Carrie Fisher with a CGI map face fighting with lightsabers and stuff. So I agree. It's and it was a Colin Trevorrow idea, and you know, if you like Colin Trevorrow, I apologize, but
Jurassic World.
Kind of glad they're not using it.
Jurassic World. Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom.
Lacey, I think that's it for the Resistance report. Do you want to talk about the Scoundrels Rundown?
I am still the captain.
Still
Still
we didn't take
the
your boat
captain.
away.
I'm gonna go get a sandwich, guys.
Okay, and punch
No,
on
I'm
3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Punch
Punch
it!
it!
Punch it.
All right, guys. Scoundrels Rundown. We had something crazy happen this past week, which was we kind of relaunched our Patreon page. It's all updated. It's new. It's like the white Millennium Falcon in Solo. You're like, what is this? It's amazing. And that's thanks to James and all the work he did aesthetic-wise and everything else. But yeah, so we have new content. We have new tiers. We have a Discord chat and much more. So you can check it out at patreon.com/resistance broadcast. And thank you everyone for your support that has been a part of the page, who have joined, have joined. And so we've actually reached our latest goal, which is the commentary for my favorite, The Force Awakens. I am so excited to do this commentary, guys, and we'll have that for you soon. So get ready for all the giggling about Kylo Ren, because it's the best movie ever. I also will try very hard not to repeat lines because I've seen it so many times I know all the lines. Also, obviously, happy Mando Eve. It is the night before The Mandalorian. I can't believe we're actually here. I feel like at Celebration we were like, I can't wait to watch that in 7 months. It's here. We're watching it. It's going to happen. Also, we're doing the Mando fan show. Right after, we're going to... Ooh, look at that.
Wow.
That's nice.
Samurai
James,
prototype.
Yeah, James is showing off some figures right now.
Yeah.
So, premiere of The Mandalorian. Right after, we're going to do a review show, talk about it, called The Mando Fan Show. It's hosted by John. If you want to be a part of the show, make sure you use the hashtag MandoFando on Twitter. Put your thoughts, questions, reflections, whatever you feel like, and you might make it on the show and we can talk about it. Also, the Mando Fan Show is going to have guests from time to time. We're really excited. We're already booking people. And our first guest we're excited to announce is Jonna Marie from the Wookiee Gunner site and the Geeky Bubble podcast. I hope that guy got that right. She talks about Rebels all the time and Clone Wars. She's a big Filoni fan. She's the best. She's going to be on the show on the 22nd of November, which is the 3rd episode. She'll talk about it. Followed by Alex Damon and Molly Damon of Star Wars Explained. They'll be on the 29th. We're so excited to have them. They're going to give us their thoughts and feelings and everything else about The Mandalorian. So again, that is the Mando Fan Show. Yes. Hashtag MandoFando. And
Dat Mando Fando.
Fando. It's so easy to say, guys. So easy.
Yeah.
And John's super excited, right, John?
I am very excited about it. I mean, we're going to try it out for the first time tomorrow night. So
yeah.
Taking the wheels off the training wheels off the Mando Fan Show.
Yeah, and it's just cool to, I think really quick before we get into a tangent, I think my excitement around it too is we talk a lot about the Skywalker saga. So this is kind of the first thing that we're talking about that isn't really Skywalker saga related. It's brand new, fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Getting into it.
Yes.
So is Chewie ready?
I hope so. Wait,
all right.
There he is.
Ready?
Yep.
Chewie, get us out of here.
All right, guys. It is time for your questions because it is Ask the Resistance, otherwise known as hashtag Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
You guys fire off questions our way, and we do our best to give you answers. You can send them on Twitter at RBATSWNN. A lot of times we'll put out a call for questions with a Star Wars GIF. I like the one where Felicity Jones is beating up Jimmy Fallon. I think you guys like that one too, because you usually get the most questions under that one. Or if you're a little shy, you can send them to our email at resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. And if you're a patron, you can probably fire them over there too as well. But we have them for this episode, and we're going to start with Martin Mead at Arsenal Man 2013. And Martin asked, if you could make your own Star Wars movie or TV show, who or what would it be about? And would you bring previously used characters back? Lacey, you're making a Star Wars movie or TV show. What's the deal?
So I'm actually going to give 2 answers, and there's a reason why. The first answer is obviously Solo. Make Solo 2 happen. I want to see that series happen. There are more stories to tell. I actually, at this point, and we've been saying this for over a year and a half, I'd prefer a series. Give us more content. Give us more hours of adventures. It would be better as a series than a movie, I think. We get to see Chewie and Han go on tons of different adventures and like hijinks and get into trouble and all this other stuff. There's tons of stories to tell there. We know from John Kasdan that there is. So just let them tell it. Make Solo 2 happen. Many of you knew that was going to be my answer. So my second answer is Enfys Nest. I think she is so cool. I think she is one of the characters that I've been introduced to in the past few years in Star Wars that I immediately was like, I need to know everything about her. Her costume is the coolest. She has such a cool story. Where does she go from here? And I think that Solo leaves her in a place that you want to know where she takes the rebellion. And I think that would be a great TV show. So Enfys Nest.
Nice. I love both of those answers. And TV show, without a doubt. 10 hours of Solo 2. Let's do that.
Or like 6 seasons.
That they do.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, they do it as like the 4th TV show announced or something. So people are like, Mandalorian was great. Obi-Wan was great. The Cassian show, man, really good. You know, maybe I will watch Solo. The other kind of thing.
Right. And the other thing too is the Cassian, Mandalorian show and Kenobi show could all potentially play into a Solo series. Like there are things that could happen in each one of those that would then tie it back to a Solo series or anything else. So I just feel like Mandalorian, if they mention Crimson Dawn, John Kasdan, come for you. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there, and I think they love Jonas, and Chewbacca's not going anywhere. And after Episode 9, what are you gonna do with Chewie? So that's just more reason for it. And like you said, Alden, right? All right, great answers. Next up, Mixter at Mixta110 said, "Could the Mandalorian answer the question, how did Maz Kanata get a hold of Luke's lightsaber, especially with having an Ugnaught in it? Ugnaughty style." James, what's the deal?
Could they? Yes. Will they? No.
Oh, brutal.
I think that the point there in the end that you're trying to make a connection, like especially is even more so likely because of the Ugnaught. The one Ugnaught, I don't know. It's very loose. Like I do understand the lightsaber fell Cloud City. There probably were a lot of Ugnaughts on Cloud City, but it just feels like such a loose connection to me personally. So I think that if they are ever going to tell this story, the Mandalorian is not the delivery point for it. So I'm going to go with no.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, maybe not the answer they're looking for, but a good answer. Logical, makes sense. Next up, Caleb Poosh at Pew Pew Poosh.
you okay there?
Poosh. Pew Pew Poosh. All right.
Pew Pew Poosh.
Caleb, you asked, do you guys think there's any chance we will see Leia wield a lightsaber in The Rise of Skywalker? We just answered that one in Resistance Report, so... And we got you to the head of the class there, Caleb. No, I don't think so anymore. Is it possible that they could have done it prior to her passing? Sure. I mean, JJ could always play with flashbacks, but then you're dealing with some weird stuff. I think James said it best. They don't have
the footage.
Yeah. When you say all of a sudden now you're going to introduce somebody who went against taking that path and just throwing a lightsaber in her hand, it's a little strange. So I'm going to say no. There's always a chance, but I'm going to say no. I don't think we're going to see Leia with a lightsaber in Episode 9. But thanks for the question. Next up is Just for Me and James. And the question...
Did you know this was coming, Lacey?
And the question is, by Wolf King at Wolf King 2010, if Lacey Gilleran was lost on a Star Wars planet, which member of the Rebel Alliance would you recruit to assist in the search for her? James?
Why am I the one that gets lost? James is the one with the terrible GPS.
Oh, celebration callback.
Well, I had a good answer, but now I'm going to say C-3PO. I'd send him.
Oh, man.
I couldn't find her, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that is a good answer, though, because he has the whole network of droids. He was able to find BB-8.
He could save me from being
my real
roasted.
answer, the one that I planned to say, was Santa Staros. I don't technically know if you want to consider her part of the Rebel Alliance there, but I do think that she is very sympathetic towards it, and she helps the heroes very often. She's definitely on that side, and she is a very good tracker. So there's many times where they need to get a hold of somebody or find somebody, and they go get her. Not only that, but she was able to find Han Solo on that like random planet when he was trying to get away with Leia. and she showed up because she had been following him. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Santa Staros.
All right, good. I would pick either Han Solo or Rogue 2.
John loves Rogue 2.
He found them.
This is Rogue 2.
I repeat, I found them. That's his only job. He found people. So if he found Luke and Han Solo in the middle of a ice planet, he'll find Gilleran somewhere in some watering hole.
Can I answer this question?
Sure.
So I definitely think this would be a scenario like Padme, where they would show up to save me, they would get chained to things, and then I would get out of it myself.
Ooh, very good. That's very Star Wars. Yeah.
And you'd both be like, oh, man.
Well, we wouldn't be looking for you. We'd send someone else to go look for you.
Me and John would be in the hallway being shot at, saying there's no other doors, and Lacey would blast open the trash compactor.
Right, exactly. Someone's got to save our skins.
Without thinking about the consequences of going down into a trash compactor.
Right.
That is me.
Hey, it worked.
That is me.
All right, guys. One more question. It's for all of us, quickly, mind you, and it is by Kylo Ren verse Mask at verse_Ren. And they said, "Hi guys, which Star Wars character do you least want to see in The Rise of Skywalker?" Oh, we'll turn down Negative Town here, verse Ren. For me, it would be Captain Phasma, dead and actually pretty dull, or Padme, would literally make no sense. So that's their take. How about you guys? What character do you least want to see show up in The Rise of Skywalker? Lacey.
This is a tough one for me, because I feel like at this point I would say Tally, but she's already dead.
Right.
And then I'd say Phasma, but she's already dead.
Right.
So who's left? I mean, Connix doesn't do anything for me, so I guess like if she didn't show up, I'd be like, okay.
Wow.
I'm not saying it's bad if she does, but like if she doesn't, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean, you know she's in it, though. What about someone who we don't know is in it?
We don't know who is in it.
Matt Smith.
Took my answer.
Who I know is in it that shows up. Can you come back to me? Can I think about it for a hot second?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I actually, for some reason, I forgot. I skipped over this one in the show notes, so I didn't have an answer prepared. I'm 100% with the Captain Phasma thing. I think at this point, they've played that character out that she's dead, although there's still this like question. And for that character to come back in the movie, I feel like it would be like oh, what are we doing now? Now we're on a side mission explaining what happened and what's going on. I love the character of Phasma, but I feel like if they did try to bring that character back as like one of the characters that's in all three of the movies, I feel like it would lose direction really fast. And that's why I gotta say Phasma. I that would not be a good cameo for me.
Okay.
I would say DJ.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I like DJ. I want DJ back.
I don't. B Team Jack Sparrow. Though. Don't want him back. Doesn't need to be there. Bye.
I would say Jar Jar Binks.
Ooh. That's an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I know people have warmed up to the character. And again, this is one of those situations where people should be able to compartmentalize and separate an actor from a character. Love Ahmed best. Wish him the best. He seems to be doing well now. But I never liked Jar Jar Binks. And, 20 years didn't change that for me. I saw the movie when I was 16 and it wasn't targeted at me. And that's okay. So my pick is Jar Jar the Binks. The court jester or whatever he's doing in Aftermath. All right, guys.
I thought you would have said Hayden. Like Anakin.
I don't want him back, but I know he probably will come back, and I'll like it. So that's why I didn't pick that. Like if Jar Jar comes back, I'd be like, oh, jeez.
See, I would like that. I think that was cool.
Oh god! And they'll probably make him look better CGI, so it'll be like a better Jar Jar, and be like, what? All right.
Did a tauntaun just die?
All right, guys, that takes us towards the end of the show here. So first off, I want to thank you guys all who have just joined the Resistance broadcast. If you're a new listener or watcher, viewer, whatever you want to call it, how are you? Make sure you are subscribed to us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all those formats. I know we've been talking a lot about our Patreon page, but just remember, our show and our podcast 2 times a week will always be free out there for the public every Monday and Thursday, and including a lot of our other programming on the YouTube channel. And also the Mando Fan Show will debut on the YouTube channel first and then appear via the podcast formats. And a lot of you people asked about that. So we will be getting that out to you on there as well. Make sure you guys are going to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Also, like Lacey said before, Patreon.com/Resistance Broadcast. I don't need to get into that much more. We hammered that home in the episode, but I do want to thank our generals. A very special thank you to... Deep breath. Carmelo, Brian Shalito, Andrew Staley, Neil Lowry, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, JG Kars, Seth Kime, and Val Trichkoff. Generals. Big room.
So awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for all your support. We appreciate that. You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James, how about you, bud?
Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
Excellent. And that is a Dude, Where's My Car reference. Lacey, what about you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran.
Excellent. Like they don't know already, right?
What?
She got her handle.
She got her handle.
I did.
When did you get your handle? Was it a newer thing or was this a long time you've had the handle?
2009 or 2010.
Oh, old school getting your handle. Good job.
I got my handle for everything. Gmail, everything.
There you go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Enjoy The Mandalorian tomorrow, those of you who are able to watch it. Enjoy the Mando Fan Show from us on the Star Wars News Net YouTube channel and your podcast feeds. But guess what, guys? We're back on Thursday, where we're going to hop into the Kessel Run and go through the 12 best casting decisions in Star Wars history. So try to get your list going together and join us when the base reopens on Thursday morning. And until then, we'll see you around, kids.
Bye.